Hey everybody, how's it going? I'm so excited for this episode. So I'm going to be talking about astrology in this one. The reason why I'm talking about astrology here is because in truth, everything that I have ever lived has to do with astrology. Not the definition of astrology as mainstream and most people might know, but astrology in the sense of how we're born, what we come in with, the gifts that are part of us, our souls, the timing, the divination of it all, and that's what I'm here to share. So basically, I'm going to do a quick rundown, as this is called the quick overview. I'll go down into things further as I go along, but in truth, this is kind of how I like to do things. I do know things deeper, but when I talk about things and stuff, I kind of like to brush upon them so I can talk about what I actually wish to talk about. But I like to bring everyone to an understanding so they can understand where I'm coming from. So let's get into astrology. So most people, what they know about astrology is that what you read in the newspaper, you pick it up, there's the 12 signs, and it's the month you're born. And it's between this and this date, and if it relates to you, it does. And most people don't think much about it, and they kind of look at it as like heebie-jeebie and like, oh, not gonna go into there. But actually, when you take that stuff further, oh my goodness, the stuff that comes up, it kind of comes to a place where you can no longer deny that it has something to do with who you are, what brings you about, and all the characteristics. At first it might be hard because we like to believe, sometimes people like to believe that who you are is who you are and who you decide to be and all that kind of stuff just comes about. But as you go further and you realize that these things are said in these kind of symbols and what brings about these characteristic traits and personality traits that bring about experiences that you go through and life lessons that signs are meant to go through, like it's pretty crazy. This is about energy, and this is about understanding how people were able to group things in energy because of what it brings about. So astrology also, you have to understand, I guess this goes past the point and maybe why I am attracted and enjoy it as well, as when we go to school in this world that we are raised in right now, the societal world, we tend to think knowledge goes in a pinnacle, that we learn from like people from past or here, we keep going up and we keep going up and we're gonna keep going up, and that's just how it goes. But what astrology shows you, and as you dive further into the history of it all, is that it goes in waves. Knowledge and everything goes in waves. We experience in waves. So we have pinnacles all the time. We have dives all the time, and pinnacles and darkness and light and dark. And that's actually where light and dark comes from in the waves. We'll talk about that as well as we go further. And so astrology actually has to do with reading the stars, the cycles. It really does. The stars, the planets, the cycles, understanding light rays, understanding how souls are light, and when combined together, how we come into this material energy that brings about who we are right now as a human, and then the experiences that draw to us and all this kind of stuff. So I know I said basic, but I'm telling you that is where basic is, which is what it was, which is you go to a newspaper, and then how far it can actually go, which is actually way further than just what I said. So another part of the basic is Eastern and Western astrology. So past basic, which is the newspaper, a lot of people know that there is a Western zodiac and an Eastern zodiac. And within the Western right now is the 12 zodiac signs, and Eastern also 12 zodiac signs. The difference is the animals and stuff, and also the Chinese, the Eastern, it goes further into elements in that one, as they have the fire, water, air, earth, and metal. Whereas Western, when you dive in later, they just have the 4 elements, which is fire, water, air, and earth. And then there's so many more. I mean, I said we're going basic, right? Because then there's also the Vedic, the Rumi, like there is, there's so many, it's crazy. It just shows that when you study into all history and how this is all around the world and the ways that they saw it and the different ways where they were able to read this kind of stuff, and yet it tells stories. I mean, even the Mayan calendar, like there is so much to this stuff. It is so cool. So even if you want to start just by having fun with it, is just try this stuff out. Be lighthearted about it, you know, and it just because it says it doesn't mean it has to be. And a lot of people are just like, oh, you know, I didn't really, and it's because it's you and what you're open to. You're not resonating with it because you're not open to it. So it's only reading what narrow window you're allowing. Whereas when you're open to it, it allows everything to read your energy more, and from that come all the answers, right? So you need to be open for answers, to receive answers. calendars, and that's just the way it is. So then, zodiac. Okay, yes. So I don't know if many people know that the Western, well, I mean, I'm going to only talk about the Western here right now, but the Western zodiac used to have 13 signs. It also had the 13-month calendar, which we turned into the 12-month calendar. It used to be, was it Ophius? And it was a man holding a serpent. He was holding it he basically, yeah, he had control of the serpent. It wasn't this. And now we've changed into the 12-month. Also, that the Eastern, they still go by the lunar calendar, which is why their new year is in later than Western all the time. And there's actually many different calendars throughout the world. Some still go by their calendars. I know many people in the West are like, what? But yeah, like there's the Hebrew, the Islamic, 7,000-year-old calendars. Like people, some years are like, it's their year 7,000. Some years are 60, like there's some years that are past in calendars than what you would even believe compared to our 2019. Okay. Then we have further astrology and how that brings about the elements like I was talking about, and how Eastern and Western have different ones about. So what basically is those things have, the elements bring about different traits of you as well. So in Western, water is emotional, fire is like more action and passion, and then air is like thinking in the mind very much, and then earth is very grounded and bringing into the material realm and like prosperity, what you're bringing here, you know. And then in Chinese or Eastern, you have the air. It's all the same except they add metal. Metal is also an element as well. And from there, they believe in the things, you know, like with, wood. There's also wood, sorry. That's the earth. They believe in, they call it wood though. They believe in it as it has to do with dampness and heat, and like if there's too much water for the wood and then too much fire burns up wood, or like, you know, and it's about the balance of it all, and it's about fire is good for metal. It's so Chinese or Eastern is all about that one. Then we have you come into houses. There's 12 houses, and when you bring that into it, and like that's a circle chart as well. And then you have the ascendant. So when you come in, the degree of where you came in, of the sun, all the planets, every single planet, all like stars, even every single degree of everything that affects when your ray, your soul ray, came in to your human self when you were born. Yeah. Isn't that crazy when you think about it, when they consummate, when they have the sex, that just from that poo comes, oh my gosh, that poo brings in that stream of all the way universe into, I mean, that's just crazy, of all these like degrees and nodes and all this kind of stuff that bring about who you are. So yeah, there's the rising sign, sun sign, like moon sign. There's everything affects you, and that makes you unique, but at the same time, with certain attributes, bring about how you can have generalities and commonalities with certain people that share certain things with you, and yet when you break it down, there are uniquenesses to yourself because of the degrees that it slights to, which only you have, right? So that's the same as what I believe in about the same, but different, unique, but like we are each different yet unique. Like how cool is that? We are all snowflakes and fingerprints. I mean, all our fingerprints tell you how they're all unique. I mean, how crazy is that? It's so cool. All the people that have passed away, everything, were still unique fingerprints. Like, I mean, twins still don't have unique fingerprints. Like, all right. Then we go on to, I'm not going to talk about every single planet and what they mean and all that kind of stuff in this one, but just basically that the planets also affect us, and each planet has a symbol, like Venus is planet of love, you know, like, I mean, there's so many things like Saturn, Jupiter, Pluto, what they bring, what they mean. Okay. Then we also have the constellations, because constellations and even those come into it, because the constellations are actually galaxies where planets reside, and that brings about soul families and planets and all that kind of stuff, and where we come from. And I'm not going to quite go there yet. But then there's also the zodiac signs that we come in on, and the sun cycles and how that affects it, because when we come in at this, like right now we're living, we just went Pisces to Aquarius, but we, I mean, in truth, I believe we're here from the Leo age, which is, I'll talk about that as we keep going. But basically, sun cycles are approximately 2,600 years, and in that each cycle has, well, 2,500 to 2,600 years, each cycle has the birthing of a new age, and usually there's like a Messiah that comes along with it, and usually there's a new enlightened time. The Mayans talked about this with the calendar ending cycles. There's so many things that talk about these cycles that happen, and within even those cycles, when you do the whole thing, that's the whole sun cycle, that's when something even bigger happens. So this is all about growth. This is all about things changing. This is all about what we feel. So a lot of what happened, we've just gone from Pisces to Aquarius. A lot of what has happened that we maybe as a majority human public don't understand, even though many do when you get into this kind of stuff and understand that there's more to the world than what we are being told and what we know. When you understand that kind of stuff through past, I mean, the things that we're going through is cool, but at the same time, when I said about that pinnacle, while we go in waves, the pinnacle does exist because we're ever expanding. So in truth, we are kind of at a pinnacle. We are. We even though we knew more then in a way physically, are able to access to know more fully. And when we access that and truly awaken to who we actually are, like with everything, that is when we recognize the pinnacle of where we're actually at with all the past. But right now, if you're not awakened to that and you don't understand all of that and you haven't gone through all your self-healing, that might be crazy for you to understand. Anyways, it's really fun though. It's so worth it. Okay, sun, galaxy, solar systems, their own cycles. Everything is at its own cycle. And right now our sun is going through its, like, I talk about this all the time, but I don't know if you recognize that when we were younger, the sun was more yellow, now it's white. It's because it's going through its own cycle, it's raised, and all those solar flares are hitting Earth, which raises our consciousness, which brings about all of this kind of stuff. Okay, now that's just the beginning of getting into astrology. Okay, yes, so it is that, what I was talking about is a quick overview of how it can be so basic and how you can start beginning to get deeper. What I just talked about there, all that kind of verbal diarrhea, if you want to call it there, even though it's not, it is so much in there because that brings about also birth charts. So go on to astrology, whatever, just type in birth chart, free birth chart calculations. That is going to help you like crazy. That so many people are so sweet to do that for free. Actually, it gives you so much information, and from there it begins to help you build into recognizing more about yourself. The reason why I love astrology too is I personally, even though I knew more and more of my life purpose as I healed and walked along, astrology helps to reaffirm it for you. It helps to confirm all those things that if you have built that voice within yourself and you resonate and you trust and you work with all the help supporting you around you from the universe and everything, it helps to reaffirm what you know inside. Because while you can trust and while the universe can tell you over and over again how and show you the miracles and how amazing and yes, this is the way and the path and everything, we are still human and there is still that side where we have those doubts come in, obviously. Not just that, as we raise and you understand about duality and power, obviously both sides are as strong and it's up to you what you choose to experience. And so when you choose that, obviously the doubt's there, but it's what you choose. And so I believe it helps to reaffirm the voices that you know within and just know, even though other people do not. I feel like it just helps to confirm that kind of stuff for you because, man, when you get into this stuff, it is screaming your name. It is screaming everything that you knew inside. It's screaming all of you. And it's like it understands you in a way that other people don't get, and it gives you that empowerment. And I find it very helpful for a lot of soul growth, really, truly, into claiming and stepping into who you are and who you came here to be and choosing your path that you so desire to live and express, because that is exactly why you came here, why we came here, what we're enjoying. All right, so into that. Then from there, I mean, so this to me is basic level 2, not basic level 2, but just basic level as well, is because while you get into it, obviously you're going to be interested in a lot of things. When I say that, like, I don't want to change this from like the egotistic mind and not, is because there are different layers. When you have an understanding, and this is where it gets hard, is because they say high understanding and higher this, and when they say higher, this is why it's hard with egotistic mind, is because when you think higher, lower, you look at it as higher, above, lower, you're worse, all this kind of stuff, but it's not true. When later ego is removed, when you talk about that kind of stuff, you start to recognize that it doesn't mean anything like that. It just means where you are along your journey. And why it says higher and lower is because well, I don't want to say you, but it's hard to understand when you're in a perspective to see more. You don't understand until you've gotten to more what they mean. And usually why it just means that you have more experience, that you have more on your plate, that everything that you have carried on top of you, that you have, it's just part of it. I don't know how to say it in a non-ego way for people who have ego. Like it's just, I honestly think it's just you have to remove the ego, and that's what it always is. You need to learn to remove ego. That's the first step. I believe. All right, so from there though, many people when they first get into it might be interested in their compatibility with other people, with their signs, with their crushes, with whatever, and you can do that fully. But as you come into healing and more, things start to change, and things, you'll start to understand as I talk about it, the layers. And this is what I mean too, is the ego self doesn't understand that there are so many layers to work through. And as you go through each layer, a different understanding comes through, and more happens, and things start to fade away that used to bother you or change, and it's just different. Each layer holds different experience, that holds different view. Like it's just expansion, right? Knowing better as you go, it's just part of it. I hate saying it because as a kid I always didn't like that, because I did feel like I knew, and this is the difference I learned as growing is you do know. The thing is, we come here and we have experienced life many times, so we do know. But there's a difference between when you experience it and live it, make the choices and try to understand from there, and then when you're actually being in it. Because when you know, it's like the people saying that when you're inside it and the outsiders can see, it's the same thing, is because when you're in it, you're so in it that all these things affect it. But when you're outside, you tend to be able to see. And when you are inside and then outside, I mean, that's even just so much more understanding, and that's actually where we're at as a whole, everything experiencing, and that's where we're at. So from there though, you learn about personality traits, and also this is also how you start recognizing what resonates within you, how you can start discerning how you feel about, yes, that's me, no, that's not, that sounds right, oh, that is part of me, ooh, oh, that feels like, I didn't think that was me, but it feels right. That's when you start recognizing those feelings, those vibes of what to trust, of those feelings that you can't not listen to, that it feels not good to not do it, that later on you're like, I should have listened, or I knew better, or why I could have, it's all those in hindsight moments. Those are there for a reason, is because if you just start listening to them all the time, that is when you're aligned with your happiness, who you are, your path, everything, and that's when just everything just goes plop, 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 and you do what you, and let things just happen. And it's such a different scene. Instead of being up here like, oh my God, you're back here, and you're like, that. No. Yes. Okay. And it's just such a different space. It allows for so much more. Like instead of here, where you're here and look how much, it's just, so many things in that. Appreciating, grateful, what you actually have, perspectives, etc. Okay. So from there, now I wanted to talk about soulmates, twin flames, karmic relationships. And I'm only also going to do a quick overview on this too, is because I just want to talk about what they are, the difference, and from there, I think that's it for this. So when I was growing up, there was definitely, all I knew about were soulmates. And soulmates was such a big deal, because a soulmate meant it was your partner, it was your person, it was who you're going to be with, it was your romantic significant other. And also growing up with the things that I believed in, being raised in society, is about what you believe in life, right? You go to school, you have your career, you get married and have a family and continue. And so that soulmate was that person that you do that with, and who you're loyal to with for like 80 years until you die, etc. Then I also learned about, as I kept going, that there were such things as soul family and soul contracts. And what that is it's soul family is who you come with many souls. Obviously all this means you have to believe in souls. So what it means is it mostly usually is the people in your family, even the ones that you, it's not necessarily, it has to be your mom, dad, sister. It's not like that. It's more like the souls within the humans that are your family, the ones that help you reach your deepest lessons, that love you unconditionally no matter what. And when I say that, even though ones that have been adopted or abandoned or had to deal with issues like that or whatever growing up that you had to do, All of this is part of your soul family too. These were all things, and this is when I'm going to bring in soul contracts. These are all things that you all agreed to do, to learn, to go through, to bring you to where you needed to be now, to make the choices that you want to go to where you want to go. And that's also the same as the karma. That's part of it too, the things that you're trying to balance and work out and heal and all this kind of stuff. So I'll talk about that as we go further too. But that's basically, so you have soul family. So there are people in your life to help you with your lessons, to trigger them, to instigate them, to help you through them, to support you, to bring you to those dark places and back, to bring you to those light places and all in between. And then, yes, most of the time with soul family, it means that you have been with them many times before. Usually eternity, really? No, for real, just infinite time. And they can be any relationship. They can be from your mom, dad, brother, sister, to your spouse, to your employee, to your boss, to someone you just pass in the street, depending on the life and the lesson. Just because in one life they were your mother and the closest mother you've ever had in one life, doesn't mean that in another life they might just be some distant family person or someone that you bump into that caused this kind of thing. So another thing is maybe your kid ends up becoming your lover in another one. You know, it's all these kinds of things to bring about the lessons that we wish. Okay, so yes, so when I was learning about this stuff, I had only heard about soulmates. And then one day, before I heard about the term twin flame, a concept had come to me because for me, I am someone that goes deep into introspection. I contemplate, I go things, I go everywhere, I throw things out there. I don't care about going where. Like the first thing was to be honest to yourself, which is admit the stupidest things to you, admit the things you're embarrassed about, admit every single thing, go there, go everywhere, just say it all, be clear and accept it all. And from there, work out things. And then that also helps you to see different perceptions and perspectives and accept things and understand things and allow things to be. And it brings about this great platform for learning and just soaking so much in, and then recognizing how people can come about and do what they do. How different combinations of experiences that lead to perceptions and perspectives lead to the lives that they're at and why they make the choices that they do. And that's just the way it is. And there doesn't need to be anything held on with that. No judgment, no expectations, no ego, no any of that. It just leads to allowance of selves to do what you need to do to get to where you need to go, being inspired by others, and it's just all this beautiful, loving energy. And that's actually what we're doing, and it's wonderful. When you understand the love that it takes to come up with these creations of what we're experiencing as a whole, as a fucking whole. I'm sorry I said F word there, but honestly, I'm talking about infinity to its infinity. Like, okay, so the concept had come to me before I heard of the term, as I had myself come up with layers that I considered for soulmate, because I didn't believe that a soulmate was just a soulmate, because I knew that there was, like, if there was a soul family, and if everyone's your soulmate, what makes the difference between soulmates? And not that there needs to be a difference, but obviously there is because of the depth of feeling. And I always felt that too, like, how come your love for your family is different for the love for the one, and how about the love for this one and family and this and all this kind of stuff, and then the attractions and all that kind of stuff. And so I did believe that there was different layers to soulmates, and so I believed that there was deeper soulmates and more shallow soulmates. But then I didn't understand about what happens though when you have your other half, the one that you feel completes you, the one that is your opposite. Because when you start understanding about splintered souls, shattered souls, fragmented souls, split soul, like things that souls go through, like it has to do with light fragments and everything as well. Anyways, we'll get into that like as we get further and further. But basically that if it was this, that you had a complete other, what is that? What is that? And that is when all of a sudden, oh, I forgot, sorry. That was also when, as I went further, Adam and Eve started coming into where I was going with my thoughts as well. And with the Adam and Eve came the male and female. And while I understood male, female with the yin and yang and all this kind of stuff, what really then I understood was that it is male and female too. And when I say that, it doesn't mean it has to be male, a man and a woman, like they think they understand from the Bible. What I believe of it is it's a male energy and a female energy, and those are what needs to be complete. And it doesn't mean that you have to be a male and female, and it has to be that you have kids and all this kind of stuff. I do believe that depending on your understanding and where we're at as a level of, I guess, what we get as a whole, we would take different perspectives of what is said in the book, right? In the holy book. And so, not that I know of the book, but what I feel from it is that it is about male and female energy, is because while I am a female, I am fully female, I have so many masculine attributes about me, and in truth, I actually feel like I vibrate more as a masculine energy. I do have female and I am masculine, and in that way, this is why I feel like twin flame concept came about in our age and in our era again, and why it came back is because many of us are souls that had split, and we are now coming into a wholeness of our own. So when what the twin flame is, sorry, I'll go back to that. What the twin flame is that it is a whole soul that is whole. Okay, so when you're whole, what more do you need? So if you wish for growth, how do you grow? You split. When you split, so what happened was the male and female split, became the male and female, and went about their lives. Now the thing is here, they are twins, okay? They are twins, yet one is male, one is female, or whatever. They can be the same halves if you want. I look at it as male, female. And what I believe is then they go separate, and then they try to build on the other half that isn't there. So the male would build on the female side, and the female would build on the male, and as that comes into balance, when that comes into balance through all the lifetimes and everything they're going through with their soulmates, and as I get on to talk about karmic partners, as they go through with all of that kind of stuff, contracts, lifetimes, when they start to then build to be whole, that's when they come back together, and then that's when they're a whole and a whole coming back together to be a bigger whole, and that's when you have this kabam moment of even more growth, and then you're the twin flame one whole, and then it's a new cycle again, you know, anyways, and constant, because when you learn about life and everything is cycles. Solar system, everything is cycles, universe, everything is cycles. Okay, so twin flame. Oh yeah, so when I look at it too, I tend to look at it as the water and fire element as well with the male female. So male, I don't know why it's this way, it just tends to be, and I feel it this way. I do feel it, and I'll explain that more in a different episode. But basically, male energy has a lot to do with the fire, and this is why. The fire and the red and the orange and the yellow, and that's because it's a lot of action. That's action. They do a lot. They do the physical, they bring about. And feminine is more the cool colors, the water, the emotion, the depth. So that's more blue and purples and like all that spectrum. And in that though, where they're together in that groundedness is kind of those greens, right? In that calm area, the earth, you know. So anyways, oh wow, sorry, I just had a moment there where I recognized too with the fire, like the darkness, hell, and the water, heaven, and then the earth in between with the 3 layers of experience, right? Because that's the yin yang. Anyways, I'll talk all about that soon. It's so interesting. Okay, so becoming whole, integrating into each other, because everything is about learning. So one thing I have definitely come into understanding is why, when the question, when it's why, it's honestly growth, expansion, is because that is infinite, that is constant, that is something that's never stopping, and that's beyond just us as a human, that is even for the all being that we're even experiencing, you know. So kaboom, ripple, 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 I wrote. Okay, so then there is the karmic relationships. And what a karmic relationship is, and this is the newer term that I just learned more recently, but the moment I heard it, I clicked, understood everything. And that is that it is similar to both the soulmate and the twin flame. The thing is, soulmate is a general term that you can encompass it all in. Twin flame is more about the 2 souls splitting in one, coming back together, that cycle they go through, and then the karmic is about, so you can have soulmates where you don't have karma with. So karmic relationship is karma. Karma is when something affects you so deeply, so it takes emotion, it takes experience, it takes emotion, it affects you so deeply that it creates this energetic change thing that is in you. And now that is there until you decide to change that. And what happens there is it actually binds you and the person together. Now, does it mean that it has to be sorted out with that person exactly? No, it doesn't. But what it does mean is that both of you need to heal from that in whatever way it is meant for you to heal from that. At the same time, it is something that, in a way, I feel like there's both. Karma, I feel like, is stuff that we ask for in a way, because I do believe that soul contracts, everything is what we allow and ask for. But in some ways, I do feel what karma is too, is because when you're a human, There are emotions are so powerful. Emotions are actually what brings about everything. That's why emotions are, I mean, when you start to understand emotion and how powerful, and that's what brings about the choice into the physical of experience. When you start to understand that, where was I going with this? I'm sorry, it's just I'm floating around with male, female, and all this kind of stuff. Karma. So basically with the emotions, and I guess that's why male, female, too, because most of the time it is with relationships, but it is even with family, it's whatever relationships mean a lot to you that bring about this emotion. What happens there is sometimes when we're so hurt, or when we love someone so much, or when it's so tragic, or when we're suffering, or we have unrequited love, or all those wishing for, when an emotion is so powerful, we're actually able to create something right there. And that's what karma is as well. So there's the karma where it's the karma that comes about from your life soul contracts that you had already, decided that you're going to work through. And then there's the karma, the instant karma, the decision right here, right now, based on the emotion that this soul is crying out that this is what they want, and they know this is what they want, even though when they were out there as the higher soul looking in on what they thought they were going to live, that's what they didn't think they want and what they need, but then coming in and experiencing that is what they're crying for. And sometimes, that is known and they allow it, but then sometimes that is what we decided in that moment, depending where we're at. That's how powerful we are. It's constant, it's always, right? It's always connected from the high-low, always. All right. Then that is similar to both, as it's lessons from past that have brought us here, lessons from past lives that have brought us here now, and for us to heal and complete. Yeah, so basically the karmic relationship allows us for chances and opportunities to heal the karma between us, where you can try to do it together or you do it apart. So this is actually what I believe about life lessons too, and you can go into my life lessons episode. I kind of touch on it there. I'll go further and further as we go. But basically, I do believe each relationship brings about lessons and inspirations and instigations of what we wish to learn and heal. And through that, it is that person, those people that bring it to you uniquely. And if you do not work it out, and you're not able to work it out with that person particularly, and let's say they have moved on from your life in whatever way that they have moved on, they can come back later when you're ready to do it again. But I actually find that whatever relationship comes about soon is actually the same lesson until you learn your lesson. And that's actually how I believe that karma can also be healed. So while it can be with that same person, yes, it doesn't need to be. It's more about what's healing inside. And so that is all of them. And then I just wanted to talk about, I'll talk about karma in another one, but that all relates to everything that I'm talking about. So this is why I want to do this episode, is because as we go along, everything that I talk about actually all does relate. I know that as I talk, it's going to seem like it's all scattered and out there, and like I said, verbal diarrhea, but in truth, it's not. In truth, I'm talking about the little segments of parts so that we can bring it all together as a whole, and you can see it as one whole cohesive, which is life. Life is that choose, and that's what we're going to do. So basically, yes, to me, astrology, all of this kind of stuff, energy, what astrology is the reading of the signs of energy, and from there it brings about many understandings. I mean, you can pass messages through everything. And one thing, another thing, like I said, I haven't really ever read the Holy Book, but what I do know about it is that they talk about signs. And on September 27th, 2017, or was it 2018? I'm pretty sure it was 2017. A crazy sign happened in the sky. And so from there, there's so many. It just proves to you that everything is constantly talking, and it's up to you if you decide to listen. And that is the truth about all of life. Just remember that you can always listen more. You think you heard, but there's many, many, many more layers, and it just goes infinitely. So anyways, I hope that helped you guys in some ways. I'm going to be doing so many more things because, like I said, love this stuff. It's so my interest, and I am going to go further and further into stuff. But anyways, before that, if you want, definitely go onto YouTube, check out stuff for your zodiac sign, your Eastern, your Western, get your birth charts. Go do so many things. It's so fun, and people, YouTube now offers so many things. So past the monthlies, of your sign, or even the yearlies, or as you get past, I don't know, there's just so many things. There is also my favorite ones right now, which is pick a card reading. So enjoy. I love you all. Have fun getting to know yourself and just be open to whatever it is. And I mean, be willing to see that maybe that is you. And from there, when you can see that, you can also decide then, who are you deciding to be now? Love you all. Enjoy. Mwah. Enjoy, enjoy, enjoy.